Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love, right here on Enlightened World Network. I'm Tomas Garza, your host. And, well, what occurs to me to say is what I always say. First of all, welcome, and thank you for joining me here. And I'm excited about today's material. Yeah, again, what I always say. So, for the last few days here on the live stream, for the last probably couple of weeks or so, we've been in what's known as a review period in the workbook for students. It's a review of material that we've previously covered. So hopefully you are recognizing if this voice inside of you is saying, well, you've already covered this, you can skip this. That's so yesterday. It's one of my favorites. That's so 1983. Oh my God. Right? If you're finding yourself listening to that voice and entertaining it, just know that Jesus knows exactly what he's doing in having us rehash and repeat and go over previous lessons again and again and again. Why? As adult learners, we clearly need it, don't we? And that's why, if you've ever been involved in adult education, I don't know how many of you have, I have, and we're instructed as instructors to present things in multiple different ways, to present the same information in different media, in different audio, visual, tactile components to reach adult learners who typically need to hear things several times before they'll even begin to entertain the idea, much less take it to heart, live it, embody it, be it, become it, and allow it to permeate all of your existence and exude out of you in a way that transcends all barriers. All, because there are none. So we need to review. And here we are. So as always, thank you for tuning in and for all of the likes, the hearts, the comments, and the shares of this page. Enlightened World Network really does appreciate this because we all grow when information is shared. That's what I'm doing as a teacher, is sharing with you. That's what Jesus is doing as a teacher, is sharing with you. It's what the Holy Spirit's doing. It's what any spiritual teacher worldwide is doing, is we're sharing, we're extending. We're extending. And when you reach out to other people that may be interested and may really need this material, you're sharing as well. And we're all sharing when we step up and practice, when we sit down and meditate, when we make a decision to forgive, when we give ourselves a little bit of space to act lovingly instead of out of rage, frustration, and fear. All of those are equally valuable. Yeah. Remember, this is A Course in Miracles, and there is no order of difficulty in miracles. So anything that may seem small is just as large as literally moving mountains with the power of your mind, like picking up entire mountain ranges and moving them. It's the same as an act of forgiveness. It's the same as a decision for love, for God, for yourself with a capital S. Same. You may not believe it right now, and that's all right. That's why you're hearing it again, so that one day you may. Whether you do right now or not is not important. However, the fact that you're watching this right now tells me a lot. Tells me a lot. So stick around. Lesson 150 is the end of this particular review period. So if you've seen any of the live streams here from the last 10 days or so, you'll know that we're invited to sit with, contemplate, absorb, be, become, embody, name your verb. It really doesn't matter, does it? What verb you choose. Pick what suits you, yeah? We're asked to sit with the idea that my mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. Those are our real thoughts. Those are my real thoughts. They're your real thoughts. Nothing real can be threatened. My mind holds only what I think with God. Nothing unreal exists. How could your mind hold unreal thoughts, attack thoughts, in other words, fear-based thoughts, thoughts of separation, of not being enough, limited thoughts, the I'm not enough voice, the this is so 1983 voice, urging you to skip these ideas, to skip ahead. Well, we all know that we shouldn't skip ahead, that there's a reason why this particular material is being presented right now, today, and that you're tuning into it. So we sit with and contemplate the idea for as long as you like. My mind holds only what I think with God. And let the truth of that permeate as far as you're able, okay? And then we review two other ideas. Those are specifically lessons 139 and 140. 139, I will accept atonement for myself. Yes, I will accept atonement for myself. So, quick review. What is atonement? Well, clearly it means something different in A Course in Miracles than our common definition of atonement. Atonement means it's in the context, in the world of exacting revenge upon someone for harming us, for having sinned or transgressed against us. It reinforces the idea of separation, which we know deep down is untrue. So, A Course in Miracles presents a different definition, a different idea of atonement completely. It's defined in many different ways in the text, in the workbook, and in the manual for teachers, which comprise the combined edition of A Course in Miracles. And we can really sum it up very briefly and very succinctly. In accepting atonement for ourselves, we're accepting the truth of who we are. We're accepting the truth of who we are as God created us. That's it. We're accepting the truth of who we are as God created us. Nothing more, and certainly nothing less. Why we've been suffering for countless eons from beginningless time is the fact that we've accepted less. We've chosen to believe a giant falsehood about ourselves, that we are cut off and separate from our source, creator, from the truth of who we really are, and we have suffered mightily as a result. We all have. Now here we are, presented with the tools to reawaken. Because where we are going is really not a place at all. It's not a destination. So when we say a walk or a spiritual journey or a practice, understand that what we're doing is we're actually removing the veils to the experience of who we really are. We're dropping the story. We're dropping the BS and letting the truth shine. We're reawakening. So we're not actually physically going to a place. Now, whether you go back physically to a place and go on retreat or something like that, for example, is totally up to you. What we're talking about is the level of truth with a capital T, ultimate truth. When we accept atonement for ourselves, in sum, very briefly, we accept the truth of who we are. And I will tell you that nothing less than that is worthy of you. Nothing less than that is worthy of the Son of God, which is you, by the way. It's all of us, okay? So we sit with this idea and contemplate. If it's confusing, that's perfectly all right. These definitions are different than the definitions that people use in the world to talk about things like atonement and forgiveness, etc. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to this because it's a very foundational and very important concept in A Course in Miracles. So if you find yourself with questions, ask your guide or guides. Ask your inner teacher to clarify for you what this means and specifically how you can apply this idea. What you should do with this idea. How can you integrate it into your life? Who do you speak to and what do you say? Whom do you approach? Perhaps you sit still and go within and contemplate. I don't know. Ask. I invite you to ask. Lesson 140 follows up on lesson 139. Naturally, right? Lesson 140 is only salvation can be said to cure. Only salvation can be said to cure. So what I want to stress here as part of a review of this idea is that healing takes place at the level of the mind. This is part of the thought system of A Course in Miracles. It is a thought system. The ego is a thought system. Adhering to the dictates of the world and your particular society, it's a thought system. So this is an alternate thought system that leads you away from suffering, as all spiritual practice, in fact, is. So whatever your practice looks like, that's what it is. It's leading you away from this. It's leading you to the truth of who you really are, the experiential truth of who you really are. We're not being asked to blanket just believe something that we can't believe. This part of the genius of the workbook is we're given instructions and suggestions for practice so that we can experience the truth of these ideas ourselves, so that we may begin to integrate them into our lives and therefore more readily, more easily, and more effectively extend love, show up as love, who we really are, and extend it. It's a very powerful, deeply, deeply powerful idea. Only salvation can be said to cure. Healing takes place at the level of the mind. It may or may not involve physical bodily healing. And the world is very wrapped up, of course, in the physical body. It's the perfect domain of the ego because it appears cut off from other bodies. We appear to be having separate experiences running around for resources that we assume to be finite. And therefore, we invent things that we call economic systems, which set us up to fight, scratch, claw, and compete with one another for supposedly scarce resources, when in reality, we're not bodies. We may appear that way. So I just invite you to entertain these ideas. And if you're at all uncertain about them, I think that's great. I think it's great. Sometimes these ideas are immediately resonant with us, and sometimes they're not. We may quite well experience some stern resistance to some of these. Now, if you do, I invite you to sit with that. That's okay. Because we're not being asked to blanket believe something, but what the workbook invites you to do, and what I invite you to do, is to sit with this. Simply do the exercises in the workbook as closely as you can to the suggested practice. If it calls for 10 minutes and you only do 2, so be it. 2 is more than 0. And that's the way I invite you to look at that. Right? Because some days are better than others. Some days we remember the day's idea and let it guide our every thought, our every word, our every gesture throughout the day. And some days we forget about it and we go to sleep at night and think, oh, well, crap. I forgot the day's idea. That's happened to me a lot, dozens of times, especially the first time I went through the workbook. So I want to invite you, if you're experiencing that, just let it go. You have only right now, today. So I invite you to sit with the day's ideas wherever you are in the workbook, whatever you're working on. Just sit with that as best you can. Because this is all about integrating these truths into your life so you show up as that truth. All right. So these are very, very, well, they're very deep ideas. What else? What else is going to do, right? It's what you're looking for deep down, because it's what all of us are looking for deep down. Each and every one of us needs to go deep. We do. We need to go deep. So what I want to do is invite you to just entertain these ideas, however implausible they may seem to you at first, and maybe they don't. Maybe you've adopted them, and then, well, if that's the case, then you can certainly attest to the truth of that in your life. All right. So let me say hello. Bernadette, hi, how are you? It's the journey within, yeah. That's the journey. And we're not going to a physical place, even if we go sit a retreat somewhere, someplace nice, tropical, Costa Rica maybe. Bali, I don't know. The beach in Mexico. Something cool like that. Happily. That's not necessary for us to make what we call progress on the path. It's totally an interior, an internal journey. That's where healing takes place, and only salvation can be said to cure. Yeah, it's healing. It's healing the mind. It's changing our mind about who we are. It's accepting atonement for ourselves. So I invite you today to do that. All right. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. And if you're catching me on the replay, feel welcome to say hello. And I will catch all of your comments later on in the day, because I check these from time to time throughout the day. All right. So this concludes this round of the review period. There is no final exam. So you can't be put on academic probation or flunk out of school. Isn't that nice? All right. So tomorrow we're going to begin the workbook's regular pattern. We'll resume it, I should say. And it's one idea with commentary and suggestions for practice. All right. So I hope that during these last few days of review, you've allowed yourself to go deep on this journey and to get something of value out of this. So I hope that's the case. I will see you back here tomorrow, and thank you so much for joining me.